Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video I have a replay between two very high rated players, Tungdil and Red Scare, and it's a pretty cool game showcasing meta strats but with a very powerful gut shot that I have featured in the past, but I still think it is a little bit underplayed and underused, and people just don't expect quite how powerful it can be. Either way, let's get into this game. We have Sabertooth and Crawlers here for Tungdil with a Sabertooth Specialist opener, likely going to go into something like Arclights or Hounds because he does need some chaff clear. And Red Scare here has Hounds and Mustangs to start with, going to go with double Crawler as his chaff. Already has kind of pseudo chaff in a way with the Hounds and the Mustangs, which is a really good opener into Sabertooth actually. Has some perhaps worse matchups in the form of Sledgehammer Arclight. But with Chamber Compression Hound and how popular it is, even that matchup honestly can be quite fine in the long run. But Sabertooth here, yeah, not going to do too much. It's mainly just a tank and a tank only, as it has no units to shoot at and really make use of its high attack value, because, well, everything that it shoots at is extremely squishy. Arclights here are going to do a decent job, but right side attack from Red Scare means that likely the Arclight here will get overwhelmed. Indeed it will. And then at that point you've got a lot of small units to deal with only one Arclight really having to deal with it all. Good tower debuff timer though, as a couple of Crawlers managed to make it that way for Tungdil. And it will actually result in a round win. So a nice debuff, and this Arclight absolutely farming there means that it will be a round 1 victory, despite, you know, the asymmetrical aggression there from Red Scare. Round number 2, and we have a couple of interesting cards. Improved Sledgehammer. I haven't played much, but I kind of want to. It's just very rare that you see this showing up in a game, but could have been pickable maybe for Tungdil in this case if he runs a range. Shouldn't be too bad into Hound Mustang. Improved Wraith also available, will get picked up by Red Scare. I didn't highlight this, but Red Scare is an aerial specialist, so going for something like Improved Wraith, or at least having it available, could be nice. Very, very powerful card. I think Wraith in general has been quite popular lately. As the Hound strat has become more popular, it is one of the counters to it. On the other side, we have Tungdil instantly prioritizing that range on the Arclights, buying 2 more, and yeah, grabbing range enhancement. This is a pretty common thing to do. Sells out of the Sabertooth to be able to afford it. Didn't sell his other building on round 1, so had to sell his 200 cost unit here. But that's fine. It was on the wrong side of the board, and again, into this board, it's just not going to do too much. So better to liquidate and go for, you know, resources or investments that actually mean something into a board of small units. Raiden picked up for Red Scare, going for the round 2 Giant, able to afford that plus a chaff deployment, or I guess in this case a Hound to catch that Crawler, because he sold one of his buildings on round 1 and then the other on round 2. And it looks like the Raiden here will just win, as Tungdil didn't have any anti-air. That is kind of the downside of going for this early range. Can be very good, but you are vulnerable to the round 2 air cheese, which is relatively common at high levels. Round number 3, we do get unit reinforcements. Not the best for Tungdil. We have Phoenix, but Phoenix isn't that great into Raiden. It can be fine, but, you know, it also has a tendency to sometimes kind of get hit and get scammed, taken out early. You'd rather have something like the level 2 Marksman drop in this case, but it's not going to happen. Double Phoenix still though, kind of fine, and actually we do see Tungdil grab Marksman as well, just doesn't quite trust that the Phoenixes will be able to deal with all of this, and I think that's probably a pretty good idea considering that we have double Raiden now on round number 3. The Fire Badger gets picked up for Red Scare, very good tank, and will help out with the chaff clearing. Should be decent. Arclights here will struggle, and the other DPS units right now are not quite capable of taking this out rapidly, which will buy more time for the Raiden, and that should be a good thing. Instant aerial specialization, by the way. Triple Marksman and instant aerial specialization on top of the Phoenix. It's a bit of a edge case scenario, because usually you'd hear me say, you know, trying to not go for 2 units with the same job, in this case Phoenix and Marksman. This is one of those exceptions, right? Opponent has Raiden, Tungdil will know that Phoenix doesn't have a great matchup into it. He knows as well that aerial specialization is one of the better counters to Raiden. And he knows his opponent is aerial specialist and that they picked improved Wraith. So going for an early aerial specialization here makes a lot of sense, and it pays off, as we can see. The Badgers here will end up winning still, but the two Raidens are down, and we do still have a Phoenix and an Arclight on that left side of the field. As long as the Mustangs die, then that should just result in a round win for Tungdil. Kind of looks like that will be the case. And if you can get a Phoenix level here, it'll be a little bit tough, but that will definitely help with the pressure on the left side of the board. And indeed, they will level, if only barely. Round number 4, we get a bunch of spells. Orbital Javelin here, worth considering, I'd say. Tungdil deciding to skip, which I'm a little bit surprised about. I think round 4 Javelin, I'm just a big fan of, just like round 4 Orbital or Ion Beam. It's just, yeah, very, very powerful. You have a good chance that you will get it back because it will come back on round 8 with only a 3-round cooldown. And, I mean, yeah, it's just good, you know. You can predict that Red Scare will sell this Raiden because he went aerial specialization, but still taking out this one early could be nice. Red Scare sells out of that Raiden, as I mentioned, goes for the Efficient Tech Research card because he didn't press any text just yet, and that is the best time to pick this card because, well, you know, you haven't made use of any of the techs that are available on your units yet, so you will be able to get the most value out of this card, and immediately double text his Hounds with range and chamber compression. Says, well, if you're going to commit this hard into countering my air units, that's fine. I'm just going to go into the Hound game plan, which I've been slowly but steadily setting up, and I will kind of just invalidate your aerial specialization. Of course, that may make things a little bit more difficult for him to make use of his aerial specialist, and of course make use of that improved Wraith card. We might not even get to see it. But hey, you know, if your specialist manages to bait out a 250 cost tech from your opponent, I think you're already pretty happy, and he will be able to grab Wasps. In fact, he did, and well, not quite super successful there. As I mentioned, Ion Beam, or well, Ion Blast it's called. Here it shows up on round number 5. Could have been a really spell-heavy game if Javelin was picked up last round. Now, Tungdil again skipping. It makes a little bit more sense here, I guess. I mean, both boards are relatively spread out, but I think, you know, the beam here could have made some sense. You'd get it back on round 9. Both are quite healthy still. I feel like with those red spells, when they show up on round 4 or 5, especially the 3-round cooldown ones, you're not really picking it for this round. You're picking it for the second time it comes back. Because then, well, you have, you know, a much more filled out battlefield. And so those spells tend to have a lot more impact. And while winning a late round when you have, you know, double, triple the amount of investment on your board means that, you know, winning big can deal up to 2,000 damage if you have a, you know, a spell advantage. So yeah, I think it was worth considering a bit more. Tungdil here going to go for the advanced targeting system instead. So really putting himself down quite a few resources just to get that bonus range advantage against the enemy Hounds and the Mustangs. Not bad. I mean, spamming Arclights here, honestly, is probably the best approach. And Arclights are very cheap. The Shockwave is likely the most important aspect of the Arclight board. And you don't need your Arclights to be high level because the Shockwave deals the same damage, whether your Arclights are level 1 or level 3. So, you know, I think advanced targeting system here does make sense for the most likely game plan. But, you know, you have to tank a spell, and you are going to be down in resources, even up against, you know, someone who picked that red spell. Round number 6, we do get unit reinforcements that could help out with stabilizing the economy. A little bit of a cash injection, and Tungdil might be able here to already kind of turn the tables. We're going to get Fortress, which is really good for Red Scare. Classic composition, Hound Fortress, you know, AA Marksman, not going to be very useful. And yeah, the transition here has been relatively smooth overall. Tungdil also picking up that Fortress, but has a different game plan in mind, perhaps expecting the Fortress pickup here for Red Scare. I mean, it does seem like the best option in general. It'd be kind of weird to pick anything else. Vortex, Sledgehammer, not really that common with this, and they have the same counters in a way. So yeah, Fortress the most expected thing, and Mountain pairs really nicely with Arclights. Great at defending this type of push. Fantastic into Fortress. Things are looking quite good. And you know, surprisingly, Tungdil here doesn't even have to loan or anything. Just has the money available to be able to go for that Mountain and even keep the Fortress that he got. And now we just have to see how much can the Mountain do. It's on the correct side of the field. The left side, not under too much pressure, although there is a level 2 Wasp on that side with only a Phoenix to defend it. Will take a little bit of time to get through all 12 of the Wasps, perhaps result in a tower debuff. But the Mountain on the right side doing a good job. The Fortress not so much, died very, very quickly. And it's just going to come down to the Ground Titan here to prove how much it can do. Sadly, the Arclights died. And the nice thing about Shockwave Arclights is that the Shockwave does not suffer from debuffs. It does the same damage whether you're debuffed or not. Could have been nice here, but yeah, all Arclights are down, so it really is just the Mountain. And as tanky and powerful as it is, it doesn't exactly love dealing with the board of nothing but small units, and so it will be another round win here for Red Scare. Tungdil now getting to 2.2k. Honestly, not the worst. Still can afford to lose a round. And once you start, you know, getting past that initial Titan unlock and then getting the first Titan on the board, this type of comp can get out of control very, very fast. And you can see that suddenly we went from having 1 mountain to now having 3 mountains, kind of spread out across the board, even having 1 on that left side, just to kind of try and, you know, preempt an attack. And I like what Red Scare is doing here, just saying, okay, well, the right side likely will see another Titan or something, you know, of the likes, because the right side was losing last round. And this way I can kind of start attacking the left side, and hopefully, you know, there will be less on that side to defend. I can get a debuff and then get another kind of tempo-based round win. Trying to recruit level 2 fortresses at first. Goes back on that idea, now makes them level 1. Has got the barrier tech clicked, so making use of Fortress here is incentivized for sure. Very, very expensive tech, 500 resources there. Don't really want to pivot too much. You know, yes, the Raiden was free to unlock, but we lost 2 deployments there, which we had to sell. If we also have to sell out of a bunch of fortresses and we click the tech on them, things are getting tricky. I say 500 resources. It is 450 resources because he does have efficient tech research, but still, you know, that's a big investment. EMP now on the Wasps. Cheap tech, you know, only 50. And really making good use of efficient tech. I think now we have 5 techs clicked in total after the Ranged Mustang, the double tech Hound, and then these 2 techs on the Fortress and the Wasp. And yeah, the EMP here should be kind of useful if the Mountains get any techs, but that's the thing about Mountain in defense. It doesn't really need any techs. It kind of has enough damage by itself. You don't really need to boost its damage. And the only tech you would really consider clicking is range enhancement, which you don't need because your opponent is so close to you. So we'll have to see how much that ends up doing. Fortress here doing a pretty good job, all things considered. Left side, of course, didn't quite have as much defense as the right. Will collapse. And here, looking like a very close affair yet again. All of the big units have died. There's only an Arclight left. Won't quite be able to take down that tower, so it will be another round win for Red Scare, but marginal victory with Tungdil down to 1800 hit points. Still can probably afford a round loss here. Another red spell shows up, Electromagnetic Blast. Honestly, that too, I think, should have been picked up. I'm surprised here about how many spells Tungdil is willing to skip. Really going kind of for the economy and scaling aspect of things with advanced targeting system. But, you know, landing a big EMP here, just taking down those barriers on the Fortress instantly, and possibly even EMPing, you know, any of the units that are sitting behind the barrier could be very powerful for only 250. It is a very, very cheap spell. Red Scare, I think, also skipping, or no, goes for the additional deployment slot instead. Is still rather healthy, around 8 additional deploy. Sometimes a little bit tricky, can be hard to get a lot of value out of, but, you know, when you're this healthy, you're probably okay. Although if you now start losing You know, sometimes Titans can just finish you off even from 4k in 2 rounds if things go really bad. But we're going to get melting points now. Red Scare, rightfully so, realizing, okay, I mean, I managed to win 2 rounds in a row here, but it was exceptionally close. More mountains are going to get picked up, maybe even with the range tech, which does show up now. I'm going to need the melting points to actually have the damage to take down this many Titans. We'll have to see how this goes. More crawlers have been added to the front. We also have Subterranean Blitz being clicked. It is the best tech to go for if you're up against Shockwave Arclight. You kind of want to go for double defense enhancement too, but a little bit too expensive still. And wow, look at that melting point lock on there. One of the mountains instantly gone. Not the worst though. We still have 3 left for Tungdil, and the real important thing here is for the Arclights to stay alive and get as many, you know, shockwaves to go off as possible to really clear the way for these mountains to do their job. Right side winning convincingly, of course. It's been fully abandoned now by Red Scare. The left side is going to win, but the level 1 melting point gets severely chunked in the process. And with a tower debuff here, Tungdil should be able to easily get a round win. And now Red Scare down to sub 3k, losing a round there. Here comes round number 9. Again, we have unit reinforcements, the 3rd set of them. And here, I mean, if you're Tungdil, you're not really looking for too many things. Could just go for the Sledgehammers. They are a very good thing to protect your mountains with, actually. So I wouldn't have minded him going for that. But instead, I think he just picks up the Typhoon or the Farseer. Both are worth the same. Sells it, and then levels both of his mountains. On the other side, though, we see linked regen Sledgehammer for Red Scare. He got 2 level 3 Sledgehammers here for practically free, and can add 3 more blue ones, even 4, with the additional deployment slot to that. And that is going to be very, very hard to kill. Also, make sure to kind of alternate between lower level and higher level sledges, which, you know, is something that you always want to do with this link tech. The reason for that is because the lower level ones will die first, and then kind of break the link and make sure that you don't lose like your entire line of sledges all at once. The blue ones, of course, have less HP, and since the link kind of equally you know, disperses damage taken from any sledge to all sledges, it is the Sledgehammers with the least hit points that will end up dying first. You basically have these kind of fuses in your link to allow it to survive for longer. Ion Beam is back off cooldown. You do get barriers to kind of try and protect against it. The mountains honestly should be somewhat fine. And we have a fire play as well. But have a look at this. So the mountains, 2 of them, locked onto the Sledgehammer link, and it is just taking absolutely no damage at all. The blue sledges are taking a little bit of damage here, but the red ones are still full health. And yeah, that is allowing these melting points to have all the time in the world to lock onto the enemy mountains. Here goes down the second one, or the third one rather. These are level 2, mind you, just completely unable to get through at this gut shot from Red Scare. It looks like all of the Sledgehammers will simply end up surviving, as that will be plenty here for Red Scare to win. With more than a giant worth of damage to spare, over 2k damage dealt there, and yet kind of proving how powerful of a gut shot this can be. Arguably one of the strongest gut shots in the game, because it is exceptionally hard for Tungdil to properly counter this, because you would have to know that this is coming. Now, of course, you know, it is being offered, but is your opponent really gonna go for that? They could also go for Void Eyes with EMP armor here. They could just sell and, you know, build a bigger board of melting points on the right side with Electromagnetic Barrage. That wouldn't have been a bad play either. But you have to know that if this is coming, that your mountains aren't able to deal with it. The right side has the leveled ones, but of course, you know, that's not where the action is happening. So really, really tough to deal with this, even though Tungdil was still relatively healthy at 2k hit points. Now, you know, you can beat this. You can, but you have to be, you know, playing in such a weird way, you know, at least from the perspective of not knowing what your opponent is going to do. you would have to go for something like Melting Point, and then, you know, place them here, range them, probably even do something like this, where you're trying to perhaps, you know, get an insta-lock going onto these units. Melting Point, coincidentally, isn't the worst into this board either, but, you know, it's kind of hard to justify when you have mountains, 4 of them on the board, which already is a very high DPS unit. Not quite on the level of Melting Point, but, you know, no unit really is. What we could do here, I guess, is go for the barriers as well, since we do have to deal with that ion beam, and then I guess the rest is just going to be used to try and missile here. Let's missile here as well, in case there would be a crawler, and really try to play for this insta-lock onto the Melting Point, which then will result in an insta-lock onto the Sledgehammer line. Now, this also highlights the fuses I was talking about. So Melting Point locks onto the blue sledges, which you can see will die. The red sledges, though, will still be alive, and then be able to kind of regen a little bit. But yeah, it is a rather tough play to make here. And is that going to be enough? I think it will be. Melting Point here will manage to survive, lock on, kill that Melting Point, and that would have been enough to win. But again, I'm not sure how realistic of a play this is. I would argue that it isn't. There are a lot of options available for Red Scare that Tungdil should take or could take into consideration, right? I mentioned the Void Eyes. I mentioned just more Melting Points with EMP missiles. And this Melting Point play, I mean, it does kind of work against enemy Melting Points and Fortresses. It's not the worst, but realistically, Mountains can kill them too if you just level them. So I don't think Tungdil did anything wrong per se. But yeah, Red Scare just kind of realizing this is a really, really tough thing to predict. And when it works, it deals a lot of damage. And that's exactly why he won. Anyway, if you liked this video, please do a thumbs up and down in the comments below what you thought about it and whether or not you've been using these type of unit drops for a linked sledge gut shot, or if you've had to deal with it. Let me know. If you want to stay up to date on my latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.